My hype for Monster Hunter Wilds is immeasurable, and I really wanted to do a proper video theory crafting and speculating what direction this game will go. Even if it's just me spitballing some ideas, it doesn't matter if it comes true, and when the game comes out, I just want to spitball some ideas. I also want people to know that I am genuinely excited for this game, despite my odd nitpicks here and there. Truthfully, the game isn't out yet, I haven't played it yet, and I know in my heart the reason why I play these games are for the themes and aesthetics, not for the meta gameplay, which is the thing I tend to be nitpicking the most, even if the meta gameplay has a massive role in the themes and aesthetics of Monster Hunter. This is a timid video just of speculation about the maps and the monsters that will be in Monster Hunter Wilds. Now, the crux of this video is in regard to this food item. For those that aren't aware, Monster Hunter Wilds has a rather innovative food buff system, and by innovative I mean it's basically the same system as Monster Hunter 2, but better. You collect food ingredient items and then you cook them together to make your meal that gives you the food buffs. This is different than how it was in previous games because you actually have to get the ingredients and you yourself mix them together. Anyway, one of the ingredients is this food item, and if I'm reading this correctly, this food item apparently gives the player hunter immunity to hot and cold climates. So from this item, we can pretty safely make the prediction that such hot and cold climates are likely going to be in this game. We know that the Windward Plains doesn't have any negative impact on the hunter via the climate, other than, of course, you could be hit by lightning. But it got me thinking, there's a good chance that each of the maps will correspond with one of the 5 Monster Hunter elements. So the Windward Plains is the thunder map, with all the lightning. The Scarlet Forest is the water map, because it's raining and there's water. We will likely have some kind of cold climate map for ice, and then we'll have some kind of hot climate map for fire. And then, if we're lucky, we might get a 5th map that relates to dragons somehow. Tokuda-san has stated in all these interviews that have come out, you can look up just any of them, what he really wants for this game is to push the ecological aspects of Monster Hunter and make these fantasy environments feel more real than they ever have. The monsters behave and react to each other, and with this simulated weather systems in ways that we've never seen in a Monster Hunter game before on this scale. For example, Ray Dao was introduced as the apex predator monster of the Windward Plains, similar to how Diablos was the apex of the Wildspire Waste in Monster Hunter World. Ray Dao is biologically symbiotic with the Windward Plains as thunderstorms. From that evidence, I've made the safe assumption that whatever the apex of the Scarlet Forest map is, it'll probably be symbiotic with the rain we see in the trailer. Perhaps this rain leads into a flood, and maybe the monster uses the floods as part of its, toolkit to fight the hunter. We'll have to see what exactly they have planned, but I can see some kind of big, new, water-focused wyvern making full use of this new hostile weather system. I'm going to say it now before people try to comment this. No, underwater combat is not coming back. They have said in multiple streams and I think interviews now that underwater combat is not coming back. So whatever this water focused apex wyvern is, it's not going to be related to anything underwater, even if there is floods. Now, with that train of thought, I similarly foresee a hypothetical cold map that will have passing blizzards and a hypothetical hot climate map that might have periodical volcanic eruptions, lava flows, or maybe even forest fires, depending on how the map ends up looking. Both the hot map and the cold map would likely, obviously, have apex monsters that complement these systems. And this is all very exciting, and I really can't wait to see what Capcom is cooking. I mentioned before that there could also be a hypothetical 5th map. Now, frankly, this 5th map could be anything, and there might not even be 5 maps in the game. We don't know. The Windward Plains has already been proven to be at least 2 to 3 times bigger than the Wildspire Waste, so these are big and very complicated, so the development load might prevent them from adding a 5th map this time. Regardless, I'm gonna spitball some ideas on these 5 maps based on what we already know and what we can safely predict, what at least I can safely predict. So if there is a 5th map, the 5th map will probably be the final map of the game, and it'll likely be where the story wraps up. It does seem that the Forbidden Lands are covered in ruins, and in the corners of these maps are small local settlements of people. And as we saw in the last trailer, those people are actually interact with the maps themselves as if they're part of the ecosystem too. Monster Hunter Wilds' story will likely have the player hunter helping each of these local settlements of people in exchange for their assistance in completing the hunter's mission of finding the missing person they're looking for, the guild is looking for in the Forbidden Lands, as outlined by the first 2 trailers. If my hunch is correct, this hypothetical final map could be the ultimate location that this missing person has ventured to, and the player will likewise find them there. It's going to be where the climax of the story takes place. Because we've seen so much ruins of an ancient civilization up until now, the final map will likely go hard on this ancient ruins motif, and the map itself might just be a ruins map, similar to the tower from Monster Hunter 2, but I don't think they'll do a tower again because even the tower would be too big for these devs to program. I'd be really impressed if they did it, but I highly doubt it because it's just so big. It'd be interesting if this map does have the dragon element incorporated into its weather system somehow. Like maybe there's red lightning storms from a crazy elder dragon, or maybe it'll be like the Rotten Vale and there's a decaying corpse of an elder dragon, and maybe that's releasing dragon energy into the atmosphere, which causes strange weather patterns. Doesn't matter, whatever they end up doing, the apex monster will likely be an elder dragon, like how all the elders were the big final fight of the Elder's Recess. The final map being ruins has been in many of the previous titles. Monster Hunter 2 ended in a tower, Monster Hunter 4 ended in the Heaven's Mount, which also had ruins where the final boss takes place, and then Monster Hunter World ended with the Elder's Recess, which was the most hostile map where the flagship and the end of the story sort of takes place, which leads you into the final fight. So this is why I'm predicting that whatever the 5th map is, it'll probably have ruins in it, and it'll probably have elder dragons. But of course, this is entirely speculation. We can't say much at all on what this 5th map will look like other than what I've just said. So for this video and going forward, I'm probably just going to stick to speculating on the cold and hot map, which are at the very least, we have solid evidence that there will actually be a cold map and a hot map in the game because of that food item. Now, in my most recent live stream, I also speculated which monsters would likely return for each map. I'm expecting to see a similar scenario to Monster Hunter World, where there's definitely a huge focus on new monsters, but from time to time we'd see some returners to fill in missing gaps in player progression. What do I mean by that? Well, for example, in the Dual Blades showcase video, there is significant evidence that Congalala, the monster Congalala, is returning, since the Dual Blades armor set in that video is clearly the Congalala armor. It's not exactly the Congalala armor, but we can presume that the Congalala armor just got a 6th gen update. Congalala, the monster, will likely live in the Scarlet Forest map. In the Scarlet Forest map, aside from Lala Barina, we don't really know what other monsters will live here yet. We can make a pretty safe bet that Rathalos and Rathian will probably show up here from time to time, and I believe, personally, that the armor from the Hammer showcase video is probably for some new kind of poisonous bird wyvern that likely lives here too. Now, it would be cool to see what kind of monsters Lala Barina eats, because, I mean, come on. That flower is definitely used for attracting prey of some kind. So is that prey some kind of new pollinating bug monster, or will it be this new poisonous bird wyvern? You know, it's like a similar dynamic to how Nursilla ate Gypceros, a spider eating a poison bird wyvern. I mentioned earlier that the Scarlet Forest will likely have a water-themed apex monster that works with the weather system like how Ray Dow works with the weather system in the Windward Plains. To me, that screams brand new monster, whatever this water-themed apex monster is. However, as we know, Monster Hunter has a library of amazing monster designs, and any one of them could return, just like how Kongolala is returning. Now, if we look at classic water-related apex monsters, we see things like Plesioth, Celtis Queen, Gurenzuruburu, Gurenzuruburu. I don't know. My gut feeling is that most of these new apex monsters are likely going to be new monsters, but it would be great to see some of those like Plesioth and Celtis Queen return for this map. Next we have the so-called hypothetical cold map. Now, we know that the Switch Axe showcase video depicted an armor set and weapon that dealt ice damage, so this is likely one of the ice-themed monsters for this map. So we know that there's at least one ice-themed monster that's probably going to be in the cold map, but we just don't know what it is yet. Aside from that, we can make some guesses on what some returners could be. I made the pretty safe guess that Blangunga has a chance of joining, Kongolala and being the herding monster for the cold map. You see a whole bunch of Blangunga, they fight you in a group just like Doshaguma, but who knows? Like the Scarlet Forest, the cold map will likely do a brand new apex monster, but if they decide to do a returning monster instead, the contenders are the likes of Barioth, Legiana, Gammoth, and Zamtrios, which are all four of those monsters are beloved, popular monsters. I think at least someone, a good chunk of the community, would be happy with any four of their return. The problem is that not all those monsters really work for any type of cold map. Like Zamtrios would need a map that's like the Frozen Seaway, where he has access to water. Otherwise, I think Zamtrios would really not fit very well in that environment. Same with Gammoth, needs more of a alpine sort of mountain environment. So, we have to actually see the cold map before we can make guesses, but just like Ray Dow, it's likely going to be a brand new monster that actually complements the hypothetical blizzard weather systems that this map will likely have. Similarly, with the hypothetical hot map, the aggressive nature of a volcano will likely be the big natural phenomenon, and if that's the case, the apex would have to be a monster that benefits from the volcano being a volcano. I actually believe that they won't introduce a new apex here. I have firm money on this, alright? Ignactor. All this is telling me Ignactor. Ignactor has to come back in this game. We've seen the Balahara skeleton in action, and I feel like if you slap Ignactor onto that skeleton and put him in this volcano and make him work with the changing natural phenomenon of the volcano affecting the map, you would have a really great apex monster that fits right in and is symbiotic with this environment. So that's, I think, a really safe prediction, and I think we would all love to have Ignactor back as a menacing and dangerous, aggressive apex monster. There are a lot of other large volcanic monsters that could fit this, like Gravios, but I just feel like Ignactor, with the style of gameplay that Monster Hunter is going, fits way better. Now, of course, there are other monsters that are going to be in the game that actually have nothing to do with the maps. Things like the flagship monster, the final boss monster, and whatever the big multiplayer siege fight monster is. The flagship monster we know is apparently been given the title the White Ghost, so whatever this monster is, it's probably nefarious and nebulous. We'll see. We'll see when we eventually see the flagship. The final boss monster we have no evidence for, is same with the big multiplayer siege fight monster, but I mean, it's a mainline game. There's always the big multiplayer siege fight monster. I don't think it'll be Zora Magdaros scale. I think it might be smaller. It might be more of like a Dalamadur type fight. I don't think they're bringing back any classic monsters for these roles. I think it'll be a genuinely new monster, but I have a hunch that the big multiplayer siege fight monster is going to be more like Dalmadur, where it's less of just a moving mountain, but it's more of a set piece that's aggressively trying to attack you. A little bit cooler than just Zora walking. Of course, another given monster that's going to be in the game is going to be an invader monster of some kind. There's always an invasion monster that comes in and ruins your day. And I think that Wilds' map system is perfect for this. Of course, there could be multiple invader monsters. I have a gut feeling that all three of like the most famous ones, which is Basil, Devil, and Rajang, will return. But they also could do Seregios just to mix things up. But my hunch is Basil, Deviljho, and Rajang. Like they're all incredibly popular and iconic. They're really, really great for the end game because they give you powerful blast, dragon, and thunder weapons and armor. I don't see them not bringing all three of them back, but we'll see, right? Usually, Monster Hunter games also have the elemental elder dragons, which function as endgame fights that also give the best of the best of elemental equipment for the player. You all know I'm personally praying each day and night for Kirin's triumphant return, but we really don't know if they would. Unfortunately for many of you, but fortunately for me, Kashela, Diora, and Teostra actually have I believe they have a much higher chance to be added into Monster Hunter Wilds, and I think that they would go really well. They would complement Monster Hunter Wilds' weather systems. Out of all games, this would be the game to bring back Kashela, Diora, and Teostra. Similarly, Namiel and Velkhana are two more elemental elder dragons that would be great for this game to return. I would love if all 5 of these came back, but we don't know. They could also just add a whole new set of elemental elder dragons that would just upset a boomer fan like me, but they could do 5 new ones. The final speculative roster additions would be any returning flagship monster. Flagships are inevitable. Zynogur is inevitable. If you look at any of the mainline games, by the end of the game's development cycle, when all the updates are out, there are multiple flagship monsters added almost every time. Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate had Lagiacrus, Rathalos, Azure Rathalos, Zynogur, Nargacuga, Brachydios, which is 6 flagships in the game. Monster 4 Ultimate had Rathalos, Azure Rathalos, Tigrex, Kashela, Diora, Zynogur, Brachydios, Gormagala, and Seregios, which is an amazing amount of flagships. And similarly, Monster Hunter World had Nergigante, Velkhana, Rathalos, Azure Rathalos, Kashela, Diora, Tigrex, Nargacuga, Brachydios, Glavenus. So it's pretty safe to say that flagship monsters are going to return. I believe that the second most popular monster in the vote, which was Nergigante, there's no way Nergigante is not going to be in this game. Like, if he's not, secretly at the end of the game, he's gonna be a title update monster. Nergigante is coming whether you like it or not. On the flip side, the number 3 most popular monster, Lagiacrus, I don't think is coming back for Monster Hunter Wilds, unless they reveal that there's a massive open lake of some kind in the Scarlet Forest. I genuinely believe that Lagiacrus's fate is sealed to be in his own game, where they bring back Underwater proper as a full game mechanic, some kind of Monster Hunter Tri reimagining. That might be the next portable game, that might be Monster Hunter 7. Doesn't really matter, it's just genuinely, as a Lagiacrus fan, okay guys, Lagiacrus is my number 1 favorite monster. I only want Lagiacrus back, and I think the devs too, they only want Lagiacrus back if there's Underwater proper, and it's like a game designed around him being how he is. This video is long enough. We'll have to wait and see what new monsters they add to these maps and what holes will be filled with returning classics. I'm excited to see what the hot and cold maps will be, and I'm sure they will be very hostile with the weather, yet very breathtaking with how beautiful they've already designed these maps. And of course, please share your speculative thoughts down below. I'm excited to be proven wrong by Capcom in the coming months, and you guys can all tell me that I was absolutely wrong in all my predictions. I want to give a special thanks to all my patrons. There's there's actually a lot of you these days, and thank you so much for the continued support. I could not do this without all of you, and I want to keep producing wonderful content for all of you. Thank you so much, and thanks for watching. Have a good day. Bye bye.